Hey guys, I'm going to talk today a little bit about playing fast, or playing faster. So I'm going to start with a fairly popular song. I'm just going to show you how I work up songs or certain difficult pieces of parts of a piece of music. Let me show you. So if I'm going to play something fast like Flight of the Bumblebee, which you can take pretty fast, and I just use that just sort of as a goal, right? You want to play something quick, and you can do this with anything, scale passages, whatever. If you're trying to develop speed, I think the most important way, well, I don't know if it's the most important. I'm just going to talk about some ideas to hopefully give you some advice on how to play faster, especially where your fingers are concerned. Well, that was a whole lot of rambling for nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through some of Flight of the Bumblebee, and I'm going to show you how I practice it, some things that I do, and how I gradually work up the tempo. Fair? Fair. I'm going to start with, I'm going to grab the metronome here. Now I have the metronome on 60 beats per minute. Now everybody's proficiency level, talent level, skill level is at a different place, right? So I might start faster or slower than you will. But I think the basic concept here is going to be the same if you're trying to play something fast. I had some water over here. Oh, where did you go? I'm going to go get my water. You might think this is the worst video ever. Because how often does somebody just leave you go get water? I'm going to go get some water. I'll be right back, guys. Give me a second. Alright. There we go, water. So when I practice this, first thing I'm going to tell you is the same thing the band directors and everybody else in the world tells you. Practice it at some speed that's manageable where you're not going to make a bunch of mistakes. So at this speed, if I take it really, really slow, something like Flight of the Bumblebee, it's a pretty good practice tempo, right? So that's one thing, play it at a manageable speed. The next thing is, for me, if I'm working on speed, I think it helps in two ways to slam your valves down, like pretty hard. So I'm going, I lift my fingers up high, and I hit the valve down very, very hard. I found that technique from, it was a Claude and Gordon daily exercise book, something, and he talked about how to practice the Clark studies. And he said that when he was being taught, the thing that was, I got it from a Claude Gordon book. Let me go get the book, because I think it's a helpful enough technique. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. And you got the metronome to keep you company. So, this is the book. This is the, oh wow, Claude Gordon's Systematic Approach for Daily Practice for the Trumpet. And it's a great book I went through years ago, and I should have gone through it, well, I shouldn't say more diligently, because I took it very seriously. But over the years, You know, sometimes you forget the things that are in here and you let some things slip. But there's a section where he adds the Clark studies. Let me see. Here we go. So here's what he talks about. Here's the Clark study, technical studies. For fingers, play slow and meticulous. Lift the fingers high and strike hard. So lift the fingers high and strike hard. Okay? Rest between each exercise as you go up. Contract lips towards mouthpiece as you go up and play louder. Relax lips as you come down and play softer. The top note should be the strongest. Don't stop at blah, 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 blah. Stop when tired. So the main takeaway there is to hammer down on your valves a little bit. What I found, it dramatically increases your speed. It's going to help your muscle memory. Your fingers are going to remember that pattern a whole lot easier. It's almost magical what this technique does when you do it right. So I'm going to use that on this song. So if I play the first part with the metronome, again, this is really slow. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm playing slow, I'm playing meticulous, I'm playing with a metronome, I'm hammering the valves down really, really firmly. There's something wrong. Oh, I made a mistake. I don't think I'm... Well, this is... Let me see. Oh, good. I didn't think I was even on here. Good. Fair. Hi, Scott. Okay. I didn't realize, I thought I wasn't. I got it all straightened out. Fair. Alright, I'm back. This is gonna go great. So what did I say? Where did I leave off? I forget. Whatever. Thing number one. Or is it thing number two? One of the things is play slow. The other thing is to hit your valve down really, really hard. And then the third thing, see now I gotta come up with a third thing. The third thing is you want to play as much as you can in one breath. So watch this. That's one breath. Now I can keep going through the song, take a breath, play as much as I can, and then take a breath and keep going. Right now I'm just trying to demonstrate how to practice this to maximize your results. Because you can screw around with this for weeks and months and never really get it down well, because, you know, people just practice it dumb, and then you never, well, I shouldn't say dumb, dumb's the right word. It's not their fault if nobody ever taught them the right way to do it. It's not their fault that they practice it in dumb ways, but it's still a dumb way to practice. You need to practice it. You need to practice at a manageable speed, punch your valves down really firmly, and I advise that you try to play as much as you can in one breath, because what you do when you do that, a couple things happen. Oh, Scott, you're the best. Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was pretty good too. What you do when you play all that in one breath, you sort of, not sort of, number one, you're going to be playing as efficiently as possible. To play as long as you can, you're not going to be playing very loudly, let's say. You're going to be efficient with your air. You can take your time and you can feel the relax. You're going to be more relaxed, I think, because when you're holding your breath, your body sort of kicks on survival mode. You know? I got you. You're great, Scott. And when your body's holding your breath, it's just like when you're underwater, like your body's in a different level of intensity when you're like, I don't have any air left. Like when you're losing air, your focus goes up dramatically. Like the amount of focus that goes into these exercise routines when you try to play as far as you can in one breath and you're going all the way, your focus increases dramatically. You're going to learn these so much quicker just because of the mindset, because of the body response. But that's another thing I'm going to warn you. When you start punching your valves down hard, you're going to be tempted to play extra loud. Don't do it. For goodness sake, don't do it. The thing that happens most often, you know, if you exert extra force somewhere, for a lot of people, their body's natural response is to exert more force with every muscle in their body. So, I'm going to go a little bit faster. See if you can hear this. Giving me a hard time. So a couple things are going to happen. You're going to get a little bit winded, right? Your fingers are going to start to get tired from punching down. That's fine, that's normal. Give yourself time to relax, give yourself time to catch up, and then do another rep. Segment. That's not the intro. I might cover the intro a little bit later. I'm just using this as an example. I'm also not articulating through that section, but that's something else I'm going to talk about. While you're practicing in a sort of slow pace, let me go to another tempo, a little quicker. It's beneficial to work on your articulation. So I might single tongue this while I'm playing it slow. Articulate the whole thing. Let me go just a higher, quicker. Articulation. I might double tongue. Now the other thing is the rate in which you increase the tempo is sort of up to you. Personally, I think it's more beneficial to play slow and perfect and slam your valves down, because this motion right here, that's where your speed's going to come from, okay? Let me hold on to this for a second. Slamming your valve down, that's where the speed's going to come from. The motion from here to here. And I've heard of people who recommend other things for developing valve speed that I don't use because it's not helpful to me. That's a nice way of saying it's no good. Just say, I'm sure it works great for them, but it doesn't work for me. Like that's a nice way of putting it. So they would put, and this does work for some people. It does not work for me. Okay? They put dimes, and people swear by this. No disrespect. I'm sure it works great for them. It doesn't work great for me. They put dimes. That's not how Claude Gordon said to practice it. And I think Claude Gordon was great. I think he has a great book, great exercise routine. I think he was a great student of Herb Dale Clark. I hope I'm getting all these names right. Whatever. I talked about this earlier. They would put dimes on top of the valve caps. Now what that's going to do is you can only play from here to here. Now, personally, and I can imagine how somebody would think, okay, this is more efficient because I'm not wasting all this. I'm going this far, not that far. And theoretically, yeah, that sort of makes sense. It doesn't work for me. I think you're going to be better off moving about like that versus, get some power behind what you're doing. And you can hear it. Versus, plus, one just feels way better than the other. If you can just hammer down on your valves, and you're building those finger muscles, you're building speed, it feels great. It's a very masculine way to practice. If you're not a man, that's fine. It's just a very strong way to practice, and I appreciate it. I was recommended to come here from my good friend Scott Busby. I do not regret coming. Thank you, Jeremiah. We're all glad that you're here. By all of us, I mean me and Scott, which my name's Scott, so we share a name, so you and Scott are in good company. Next. So where was I? Oh yeah, I'm going to change the articulation, and I'll practice double tonguing. Because the main thing I'm trying to practice here is the fingers, but if I can get some extra practicing in, I will. So the goal that we're reaching for, the goal is to play fast, right? So if you do it, I'm also a big believer in perfect practicing, okay? The less mistakes you make, the less wrong ways you know how to play something. And so whatever speed you practice, if it's perfect, it's correct. If you're practicing where you're making mistakes, I wouldn't do it. I think there's some advantage to pushing your tempo a little bit, trying to play faster than you can handle, but I wouldn't do that more than 5 or 10% of your practice routine. The bulk of your practice routine should be perfect repetition, okay? Because what often happens is players will just try to, all right, this is the difference between control and out of control. And when you're out of control, you're going to the limit of what you can possibly do and then a little bit farther. And some amazing things can happen at that point, okay? And you imagine a performer who stays right at their limit, you know, they're going to play, and I'm not this, they're going to play well. Right? That's all within easy to play limit. I'm not pushing the envelope at all. There I pushed it just more than I should. I messed up. Okay, so if I'm going to out of control land, I'm pushing the boundary of whatever speed I can handle. Let me check the sound real quick. I'm also acknowledging I'm not articulating it. I'm using this as a finger speed pattern exercise. Whatever. Predominantly. If I go to the out of control place, where I'm just playing as fast as I physically can, I risk playing wrong notes, but you also risk greatness. But that's a risk. You know, if you're playing out of control, trying to play as fast as you possibly can, you might mess up, you might not. There's always that risk. There's always some risk anytime. But to maximize, if you're going to go to that place where you're just going to go as fast as you possibly can and just hope that everything works out, you want to set up a very solid foundation of perfect practicing. Because if your fingers only know the right way to play the song, when you go as fast as you possibly can and you start to go too fast, out of control, it's still going to be correct because your fingers don't know how to make a mistake. So, slow practicing is king. Is that enough to just try to play it as fast as I possibly can? Probably not. If I honestly try to just rip it off as fast as I possibly can, it might work, it might not. Better to set a solid foundation. So the tempo I left off was 93. And I would just keep creeping up a little bit higher. And then creep your way up just a little bit higher. Here I'm at just about 100, right? So here's a little quicker. Recommend increasing the speed incrementally with some amount of rest in between, because eventually your fingers are going to start to ache and get tired. In fact, another way I might practice this to just focus on some of the more difficult passages, instead of going up, I might just play, well, I don't know. Just one section and loop it and play it as long as you possibly can, which is good. I'm starting to put the accent in there. I didn't listen to what that sounds like. Yeah, it's not awful, but So here is 106. Every now and then it could be helpful to just play as fast as you possibly can. If I do that now, you know, if you're just super impatient and you just want to kind of see where you're at and see where your fingers aren't quite there yet, you know, you can do it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just that the bulk of your practicing needs to be perfect practicing, 90 to 95%. So I like to practice, you know, 3 different speeds: slow, I like to practice medium, now medium could be anything from there to and then the last tempo I'll practice, and I'll practice this the least, is out of control fast. Okay? Might not even be that good an idea to do this, but the temptation can be just too strong. So the problem I'm having is around the 2 and 3 turn. So obviously that's way too fast to control, but it tells you where you're screwing up. So you go back to your metronome. I'm at about 110. Oh, I didn't say what to do. So when you go to your out of control place and you find, that sounds funny, and you find where you mess up, what I'll do when I go back to my regular tempo exercises is I'll hit the note even harder on the place where I screwed up. So the place you screw up. Okay, so there I'm messing up kind of around around the 2 and 3 areas. And this is common. The third finger gets the least amount of attention and needs the most amount of work. So when I practice it, let me go back and kind of look at it. Okay, so harder on the place. Okay, so there I'm messing up kind of around the 2 and 3. If you're just tuning in, you get to see me watching myself play. So the speed on that, you know, the fingers are working better, but again, when you go to that out of control place, you want to have, I think that's where you just sort of determine what's wrong with your playing, what needs more attention. I'm at, let me see, 110, let's go up to 115. And the fingers are starting to ache. I think that's good for the muscle memory. Uh-oh. So if that happens, let's take the metronome down a little bit. Take the metronome back down a little bit more. when you get, and you're going to get to this point in your practicing, and if you're practicing super efficiently, you'll start to wear out in the fingers faster than you wear out on the face. And so that's about where I'm at. How long have I been playing? So my fingers are starting to get tired, okay? And when your fingers get tired, just like your lips get tired, things shut down. So when you hit that point, you'll give yourself a break. Stretch. You're going to feel your arm tightening up. Stretch your arm. Stretch your arm, your hand both ways. Stretch your fingers. You can open up your hand as wide as you can. And stretch those muscles out a little bit because they've been working hard. And hard-working muscles memorize the pattern a heck of a lot better. So once I hit that point, my hand's tired. I'm going to focus on something that's not so finger demanding. Okay? So you can slow the tempo down and you can keep going. You can take a break and then try for speed in a little bit. Or you can work on your articulation. And that's something I like to do. So if you ever heard what movie was that? So that's that's the Green Hornet, right? See how that sounds. Or you can work on your articulation. And that's something I like to do. So if you want to work on your double tonguing, again, I recommend you use metronome. Once your fingers are feeling better, try to continue where you left off. If your fingers are trash, give yourself more pause in between. Don't take tempos quite so quick. And let's see. There's the opening section. Why is it frozen? Oh, I see. There it is. Good. So once you get a certain part as fast as you want, slow it down, and you can work on another section, slow to fast. This gives your fingers a little break also. If you've never had the experience of your fingers wearing out before your lips, either you're using too much face muscle, not playing efficiently, or you're not hitting your valves down as hard as you ought to be when you're trying to work up speed, okay? So let's go back to 60 beats per minute. So the beginning of it goes something like easy. Gonna go a little quicker. Trumpet's a little bit different, but if you can hear your valves popping, see if you can hear this. And ideally, it's going to sound like a metronome. Right? Oh, there's a huge delay. That's fine. So let's go up to... That's something I didn't mention too. If your lips are wearing out and your fingers aren't tired yet, and you just want to do a finger repetition, you know, that's a good way to start to sort of get the tempo down. With the 90. Go up to 100. Process, if you screw up, don't be dismayed. It doesn't mean that you can't handle that tempo. It could mean your brain is just catching up with the finger pattern. It could be that you've practiced it in different ways and something different is coming out, right? Because this whole process is trying to teach your fingers, your muscle memory, and your mind only one way to play this. And through this process, if you're playing wrong notes, all the bad repetitions you've ever had will start to come out. And better that they come out during this practice routine. That's fine, slow down, get more perfect repetitions in. You'll hear me make mistakes all the time. That's not a big deal. Not to me. When it comes to performing this, though, and I don't know how else to describe it, because you know what it feels like when you're pushing the limits and you're out of control, let's say. Because I have students who do this with their double tonguing all the time. I have students who can double tongue. I say, can you double tongue? They say, of course I can double tongue. And they go, and they just double tongue as fast as they possibly can. I say, that's fantastic. Can you double tongue slowly? Of course they can double tongue slow. I say, that's great. Can you double tongue at this tempo? Tucka, 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 tucka. Never. Because most students and most players, especially young players, have never double tongued at that tempo, because why would they double tongue at that tempo when they can just single tongue, is the prevailing mindset. And so double tongue is a good example of you just sort of articulate as fast as you can, and that's the only time you use it. You want to have control of all these elements at every metronomic checkpoint. That's a terrible way to put it. At every speed, okay? You want to be able to. Flight of the Bumblebee used to be this way with me. So I practiced it slow, and I would practice it blazing fast. But to play it at a particular tempo that was kind of in between, sometimes I struggled with it, which is why I'm here. Okay, so where am I at? 1:15. What's your question, Scott? Since there's a bit of a delay, you're going to hear me ask what your question is. You're going to hear me ask like way later. So I'm going to type it in the chat now, so you can just type in the question so you know I acknowledged you. Does that make any sense? Anyway, is there any time you shouldn't either tucka or tugga? Okay. Let me respond. Is there any time you shouldn't either tucka or tugga? I'm going to assume I know what you're talking about. Tucka or tugga. Is there any time you shouldn't either tucka? You mean, is there one you should do over the other? I would say in most music that you're going to play, ta and ka are the sharpest articulations, okay? Da and ga are the softest articulations. And so if you're playing a piece of music, you're rarely going to go tugga, 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 because you're not going to want the first note really sharp and then the second note kind of soft and glossed over. Music's not going to call for that very often at a faster tempo. You know, that would sound odd. Or the reverse, ducka, 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 ducka. I mean, you might if you're going to accent one of the notes, but normally you're going to ta and ka together, and you're going to da and ga together, so you get the same articulation, taka 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 ta, or daga 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 da. Right? And so it's more uniform. Are you asking if there is a different one? Because you can go da ga. Da and ga go together normally. Is there another way to articulate quickly without using ta and ka? You could doodle tongue. I bet you don't know what that is. Maybe that's what you're asking. Maybe is there another way to articulate fast without using those syllables? If that's what you're asking, doodle tonguing is usually used in jazz. It's very legato. You could go daddle deedle diddle dodle doodle, daddle deedle diddle doodle daddle deedle diddle doodle daddle deedle diddle doodle doodle, and that sounds like. I'm not super great at it. Daddle deedle diddle dodle daddle deedle diddle dodle daddle deedle diddle dodle do. I'm not super great at that, as you can hear, but I kind of understand the idea. If you mean, are there other syllables outside that spectrum you could use? Oh yeah, absolutely. You could use tarkar, toko, tiki. Think of any of the syllables you would use, like if you're playing a low note, oh, you're playing very open, to, or do, dogo, toko. For a higher note, a lot of people they change the shape of the inside of their mouth to help facilitate a higher note, which I kind of try to avoid, but at some point it helps with the range. But you might be going T-key or D-key for a higher note. So, is that helpful to you? Let me add. Oh, cool. Okay, so going back to my original exercise, if I'm practicing just for, okay, where was I? I'm doing the intro. That's going to be da 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 da. A good rep. I'm going to try a little bit quicker. Didn't quite keep up with the time, but it was close. Two. Just keep speeding up. Just keep going quicker. Didn't quite keep up that time. It's good to visualize the music before you play it, instead of just assuming how fast it's going to be. You know, think it through. Yeah, question is answered. Thank you. I'm so glad. There. So that was a little sloppy. So I'm going to back it up just a hair. Because I'm not sure if I messed up because I wasn't keeping track of time or if I had a finger slip. So that worked over the fingers. Let's go a little quicker. And sometimes it's good to mix in a couple slow reps just to help build the foundation. So sometimes I'll go half speed just to solidify where my fingers are going so it doesn't get too out of control. In there, I didn't put the accents in. I was just working on the fingers. Let's see. Sometimes that's easier to do after a slow rep. I'm watching myself play, which I recommend you guys do too. So anyway, so now I heard what it sounds like. So now to troubleshoot, so at that tempo I had a little mess up. I'm going to do a couple half-time repetitions. And just to solidify where the fingers need to be. Oh, wow. Solidify where the lips need to be. I'll give my hand a little rest. Because again, if your hand muscles aren't burning up, you're not exercising them well enough, okay? So get it to where you can feel, you can feel a little bit of a muscle burn. Maybe more than a little, right? The more you feel that, the more the muscles are going to, the muscle memory is going to kick in, and you're going to be able to, it's like magic, I'm telling you. You will just be able to play very, very quick. But be patient with yourself. Go through the process, do it the right way. Let me review the right way. Again, my ideas combined with Claude Gordon's, you guys see this? Claude Gordon, Systematic Approach to Daily Practice. I think it's great. And he talks about hitting your valves down like hard. Slam your valves down. You're not going to break your trumpet, okay? Play it aggressively. And the other thing is, learn to play relaxed. So I talk about this all the time. In almost every live stream I talk about this. Learn which muscles to engage and learn which muscles to relax. I bring up the boxing model all the time. So with boxers or fighters, anybody who's throwing a punch, you have your arm muscles and you want to make sure something boxers struggle with. When they're punching, you have two muscles generally that we're going to talk about. The tricep muscle extends the arm. The bicep pulls the arm back. Now, if you have too much tension in your arm, let's say, and you're flexing your entire arm, bicep and tricep, when you engage the tricep, your flexed bicep, because of tension, is going to be fighting the tricep, and you'll have an ineffective punch. Boxers struggle with that, I understand. You need to learn to relax your bicep and just extend with the tricep. With a relaxed bicep, your hit is harder, it's faster, it's more effective. The trumpet's the same way. You need to learn which muscles to engage, and engage them, and learn how to engage them 100% while relaxing the rest. And a great example of this is if you sigh, take a deep breath. Your throat and your chest should feel completely relaxed. When you're pushing the air through a horn, you should feel your stomach very much engaged. Okay? When you're doing these exercises, try to relax everything that you're not using to get a nice big full open sound. I'm trying to keep the face relaxed. I'm trying to keep the air stream flowing. Try not to tense up anywhere except the fingers, and that's about it. Because you don't really want to over-tense anything else. It should feel like a long tone. So, let me see where I left off. We're about 160. Let's try this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play here. If you listen to my fingers, they're not quite lining up, but I'll try it. I'm slow. Yeah, I kept slowing down. It's not quite there. So if that's the case, I'm going to creep back just a little bit to 162. Take it half speed. The fingers are starting to get tired. And that's the main thing. Once your fingers are tired, give them a little break. They might re-engage and you can do it again. But after you give it a really hard go and your fingers sort of have it, you just got to sort of call it, maybe not call it a day, but give it a longer rest. But I'll try it anyway. From what my fingers can handle, but I'm not going to end on a tempo that I'm going to mess up on. I'm going to go back to a tempo that feels good, right? That didn't even feel good. Teach the brain the right way to play it, and this is just one practice session, right? And just seeing how much you can build in one practice session, how much of a workout you can get in one practice session. Yes, I've played this before, but you still have to, this isn't exactly like riding a bike, right? Or it is. It's a lot like riding a bike. You can still ride a bike, but think about the way you would ride a bike if you took 2 years off and then you rode a bike. You can always ride a bike, right? It's the same thing. But imagine you can ride a bike, but you're not going to go what is it? The Tour de France? What's a big bike race that they do? I can't. You guys know out there, let me know. You're not going to go do a big bike race after not having biked in a couple years. So yes, you can still ride, but you probably couldn't compete. So for me playing this song, I've learned it before, I can play it. I'll always be able to play it, but to be able to play it like cutting edge, fast as possible, this is like day one of practice. Like getting back into it kind of thing. But look at how much damage you can do with one day of practicing. If you have that kind of focus and you practice with good technique, you're going to reach your goals way quicker. Now, do we have any questions out there right now? While I'm waiting for questions, the other thing that I like to work on is articulation. And so the Green Hornet is kind of like Flight of the Bumblebee. I like to practice that one with the articulation. How does that go? And that's sort of a trickier thing for me to just off the cuff do, because it goes from a very demanding double tongue section to a very demanding finger section. What I want you to notice, I want you to listen to this, I don't know if you can hear it. Listen to the valves popping. And another thing you want to work on, try playing this with your fingers hitting so hard and you're playing so soft that you can hear the valves pop while you play. Check this out. Can you hear those valves? Right? I'm going to listen in here. Try playing this with your fingers. Because again, that's the thing people screw up most. And that goes right back to engaging with the right muscles, relaxing the right muscles. Yeah, you can definitely hear the valves clicking in there. So if you have the right muscles engaged and the right muscles relaxed, you're able to play hammering your valves as hard as you possibly can at a very, very soft dynamic level. A great way to start practicing this is like with a trill. Try playing a trill as fast as you can, hitting that valve as hard as you can, playing as soft as you possibly can. And then try to relax your face, try to relax your throat and chest. It's a great exercise for teaching yourself to, just like we've been talking about, engage the right muscles, relax the right muscles. This is also great for your range, right? You know, the only reason you can, let's see, if you engage the right muscles, and relax the right muscles, your range opens up, right? You're able to play, like your whole upper register will just open up and happen. And the reason for that is, just like the boxer thing, if you have two opposing muscles that are fighting, you're going to be playing inefficiently. And, I mean, you're just fighting yourself. So the throat is the most common place where people tighten up. And they tighten up when they articulate, they tighten up when they start to engage and push harder, they tighten up the throat, they tighten up just when they breathe in. One of the most natural things to do is to breathe in and then hold your breath with your throat. And if you try to play a high note, if I do exactly what I just did with throat tension, it just shuts the air right off. Your throat can literally stop all the airflow and you won't have an upper register, right? You know, There's more to it than that, but that's a very good place to just sort of start. Oh, I think I went too high. Alright, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm done here. I've done all the damage I can do. I might try another. Now my hand's relaxed a little bit. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. A little hairy around me. Now, you're probably going to notice that the fingerings that I'm using are, maybe you didn't notice, but if you watch my fingering, because this is all just a big finger exercise for me, I use the same fingering on the B down to the G. Like the G, I'll play 1 and 3, just for the sake of continuity, so I can get that extra finger workout, because the fingerings are the same if you play it that way. And so I play it that way just to keep the fingerings, just keep the exercise going, to keep the fingers nice and strong. So I'm giving myself more of a workout. Otherwise, the other thing is, going from the G back up to the C is kind of a quick slur. Which you can do just fine, but I've gotten used to doing a valve movement out of it. Which I think, well, just because I practice it that way, it's easier for me. And some people will do this too. On certain open notes, they'll finger the note. I'm trying to think of a good example of that. I mean, this is a fairly good example. Versus, right? Having to slur it. Versus fingering it. Yeah, it just works a little bit smoother for me to finger that G 1 and 3 versus slurring out from the G to the C. That's just the way I've been practicing it. Alright, there's 4 of you guys watching. Do you have no questions? Ask a question. Interact. Otherwise, I just sit here and practice. I can do that. I mean, that's like somebody else just jumped on. What is your question? I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. What do you want to know? Ah, they left. Look at that. No, I'm just kidding. You guys have the, well, I guess, well, I was going to say you have the advantage of anonymity, except in the case of Scott Busby. You don't have much an anonymity because of your name. Or, what do we have here? Jeremiah Jahanara. Is that how you say your name? Or is it Jahanara? How do you say that? Jahanara. That's got to be right? I mean, my name's Luch, and you won't even guess how to spell that. Guarantee it. Just guarantee it. Is there another song you guys want to hear? There's... Anyway, that's about all I have to say about speed, except for like the Clark studies, for example. The first Clark study is sort of the reason I can play the chromatic scale as well as I can. The first Clark study, and again, I use it more as a finger exercise than a sound exercise. Well, let me address that a little bit. So, when you play faster, what can tend to happen, I forgot about this. I was going to mention this earlier. When you're playing really, really fast, and you can hear it a little bit in what I'm playing now because it's pretty raw, not really refined, but when you play a really fast, simple, let's say a Clark study. Now I played that bland for a reason. Because what you hear, the notes aren't all in tune. Listen again. The fingers are all there, but the notes don't shine through very nicely. You know, like when you go slow. So I was watching an Alan Vizzuti clinic, and what he would do is he would practice, well, one, he practiced major, minor. He did a kind of a fun routine. He would go like major, minor. He would do whole steps. I think he did diminished. I think maybe I've heard other people do chromatic, which is just kind of difficult. But anyway, the point I was getting to was when you just push your valves down, you can get a very muddy sound. Right? Like the notes are almost indistinguishable. They just sound like mud. But you can help yourself out. Alan Vizzuti in a clinic talked about buzzing each of those notes. So you match the pitch. And going very quickly, because there's two ways you can do a lip buzz, right? Or a mouthpiece buzz. So that's a very slow lip buzz, which would be the equivalent of right? So on your mouthpiece, if you're trying to really enhance your sound and not just sound like mud, try snap to the note as quick as you can, just like you would with a valve movement. Now that I taught you how to do the right valve movement. Valve movement, not bowel movement. Somebody thought to be that sensitive and that quick that they can find that sound. I'll show you another exercise to help your lips sort of become, I don't want to say it makes them more sensitive, but it makes them more reactive. Well, I'll show you in a second. So then gradually increase your tempo. That little movement, just trying to do that, is going to help out quite a bit. So now my lips are moving just a little bit, just enough to match, to get to find the best part of each of the notes. And it's not always perfectly successful. I mean, this is pretty quick, right? Teach your lips to go with the movement. I was too fast. movement. It's just enough movement to play each note in tune. If you don't like it, Alan Vizzuti told me to do it through a clinic that I watched online. The thing I was going to show you, you can sort of teach your lips to be more sensitive to and to move around a little bit easier. Try this. So if you play C to G, like that's great. Harmonic slur, yes, do it every day. It really messes with the lighting, doesn't it? It's because I'm white. The way, see how that kind of darkens everything? Light room, dark room. What if I did, watch this. Nothing? Light room, dark room. Light room, dark room. All right, serious. Quit messing around. What was I talking about? Yeah, watch this. Playing between the notes. So there's this big space between each of your notes, right? Watch. Try to do this. Try to play as much of that space between your notes as you possibly can. Right? And you can try practicing it the other way just to help yourself out. You know, get as much of the space as you can before the note pops out. What might happen if you're not used to this, if you're not good at it, the next harmonic will pop out, and then you'll do a great harmonic slur, which is great. It's more to the movement is what's important. You know, the way you contract that lip as you're going up. That's the important thing. Just like when we did I told you I got this exercise from another YouTuber, the Trumpet Prof, or the Trumpet Professor. I can't remember. I think I have it. I think it's just the Trumpet Prof, like P-R-O-F, like the Trumpet Professor, but I think it shows up. And he has some cool ideas, but he said, try this. And you notice how the pitch goes up. Listen again. Hear how the pitch just goes up? You know, you teach your lips to react to the airstream rather than starting with your lips and blowing past them. You start with the air, and the lips react to the airstream. They grab the airstream, and I talked about how that's way more efficient and way better for your playing in other videos. If you have questions about it, feel free to ask. But that lip reaction, the way the aperture changes, it's kind of specific, right? And if you're overdoing it, let's say, it's going to shut off your sound. If you try to play a slur by just pinching your lips together, that's wrong. It's very specific. You need to be like there needs to be an amount of relaxation. It's hard to describe exactly what it's doing. That's why there are these exercises to teach you what it needs to feel like. And this is the way it needs to feel when you ascend into the upper register. Right? It's the same lip movement. Okay? It's all about playing efficiently. Kind of a tangent, but it's kind of what's been on my mind lately. Playing more effortlessly, playing more efficiently in all registers. Anyway. And then, obviously, finger speed. So, I was going to talk about finger speed and the chromatic scale. Because I think the reason a song like Flight of the Bumblebee worked out so easy for me was because 6 years ago, I used to practice the Clark studies, number 1. Down, trying to wear out my hand, trying to develop the muscle memory and build speed, obviously. And so the Flight of the Bumblebee is just a chromatic scale. And I found that the more exercises that I did, if I did the Clark study major scale exercises, my major scales just flew. If I practiced certain jazz licks like this, like I used to practice Clifford Brown, the Clifford Brown solo. I used to practice like this. Again, banging the fingers down. And so I'll practice it like that before I knew it. And it's just a G scale, it's not super hard. I used to know more of it, but I haven't played it long enough. Well, you know what? Okay. So this is about speed, right? We talked about classical music, we talked about Flight of the Bumblebee. Let's talk about how much battery I have left. Yeesh. I'll be okay. How long have I been going? That's nothing. So I talked about classical music, Flight of the Bumblebee. I talked about basic trumpet fundamentals. I didn't really talk about jazz, and so why don't I use Clifford Brown, the Clifford Brown Cherokee solo as an example. So I don't remember all of it. And there. For your improv, is a great way to build your double time licks. It's a great way to practice faster pieces. But let me grab the Clifford Brown solo. Let me see if I can find that. Clifford Brown Cherokee. But it's the same thing. Image. Okay, so here. That's just going to have to work. Go over there. That's hard to read. Okay, I think I can see it. So that next part. Oh, this is in the key of, this is concert pitch. Why would anybody do that? Let's see this. No. This is unbelievable. Why would nobody have PDF? You guys ever tried to play Clifford Brown's Cherokee solo? Here we go. That's in the right key. So that next lick. Well, let me start at the top. So this next part. So again, practicing it the exact same way. Grab your metronome, but pound your valves down, for goodness sake. Hit your valves down hard. Your muscles are going to, they're going to be stronger. Your speed's going to just dramatically increase. Your muscle memory is going to kick in faster, and you're going to know this stuff a whole lot deeper. It's going to be a part of you. I'm getting tripped up. Obviously I didn't play a wrong note, but the A flat, if you guys want to bring this up and follow along, Clifford Brown, Cherokee, PDF, maybe solo, it's pretty easy to find, even though It took me a little while. And I'm not working on the articulations, which maybe I should. Okay, there's a great long passage to practice. And when you're practicing jazz and you're working on developing speed, when you're at that slow tempo, it's a great time to work on jazz articulation. And that could be do-da, 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 do-da. I think playing do-da over the whole thing can get kind of dumb sounding. So I might articulate accenting the peaks just a little bit. I like the tongue slur, tongue slur, tongue slur, alternating articulation. And there are other words that you can just practice in there. So the main thing is hitting your valves down hard with your fingers. Okay? So let's practice that segment. When you make speed a physical thing that your fingers do, I'm at 16%. Let me see if I can adjust before my phone dies. So if you make it a physical thing that your fingers just do, you're going to look at these exercises a different way. You're going to look at these passages different. For example, there's a spot in here where over the fingers, it feels very nice to, let me show you what I mean. This here. You go open 1 and 2, open 1 and 2, open 1 and 2. And it feels good to do da 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 da. Like you can do that all day, right? And so when I look at the passage, like that's the spot that it feels good on the fingers, and you think about it that way. So I already have that worked up pretty decent. Yeah, this is something that I've worked up 8 years ago, but it takes a bit of a refresher to bring it back. Let me put this on the charger. Let me see. I'm gonna keep going. Oh yeah, this is great. All I gotta do is, here's what I'll do. I'll put it on this book. How can I do this? I'll tip it up slightly. Oh, this is amazing. Yes, this is exactly, oh, the mouse is, oh, that's fine. This is perfect. You guys can see what I'm doing. It's amazing. This is better than before. I don't know why I didn't just have it on the charger the whole time. Duh. Okay, so let's go over that passage again. I need to blow this up a little bit. This is hard to see. Bigger, bigger. Yeah. Okay, good. So this whole passage, you can watch along. If you're watching, this is measured, pick up to 13. tripped up on. That feels weird. Oh, that's why. There's a spot where I'm playing an F sharp, and it's making me drag just a little bit because you can do a valve movement. I can do a valve movement faster than a slur. So to go, you got to be able to slur pretty quick. And you can check out Ryan Kaiser, Kisor. Ryan Kaiser has a video of him doing his lip slur routine, just real quick on the camera, or part of it. And it's insane. I don't know why I would demonstrate it. You should just go watch it. And then he does octaves. It's amazing. Anyway. And again, if you're practicing this effortlessly, you're going to be able to do it. You're going to be able to practice longer, is another thing. If you're not wearing out your lips, you can practice. I mean, I've been playing for how long? 87 minutes, on and off. I'm not tired, not at all. I know I talk a lot, but I'm not really playing up in the upper register that much either. So there I'm trying to add a little bit more articulation. I might start tonguing random notes. Trying to punch things. So there I started to tense up just a little bit. My valve unscrewed. It's starting to... Actually, let me unscrew this a little bit so you can hear that. I don't know if that's... Whatever. I guess that just gives you the upstroke, which, I don't know, whatever. So again, if you get to a point, just like Flight of the Bumblebee, get as many perfect repetitions in as you possibly can. Breath. Let me check if you guys have any questions. Nothing, huh? Alright. Oh, thanks for the likes. I appreciate that. So, let me do a little bit farther. And again, I like to use this for... Well, let me see if I can connect these. That A flat gets me. So again, practice it slow. Pound the valves down. Teach your trumpet what you want it to do. Another thing, if you're having a tricky spot, just like on the other song, if you have a tricky spot in there, hammer the valve down a little harder on that note. Right? A flat. Great. So that next section, I would play the Clifford Brown solo for you guys right now because it's outstanding. I mean, like, open up another video, but last time I did that, they took the video down because of copyrighted material. So I'm not going to do that. Sorry. Who wrote this? Transcription. There's another guy who does a really good job if you're interested in Clifford Brown and his solo on Cherokee. The guy's name is Dominic Farinacci, I think. Let me look real quick. He has a great video on learning Clifford Brown solos. Dominic, what did I say? I can't remember his name. Trumpet, Clifford. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, his name is Dominic Farinacci, and he does a great. It's called Clifford Brown Solo on Cherokee Analysis by Dominic Farinacci. If you guys are interested in that, in Clifford Brown in his solo, I watched this a long time ago, and it's a fantastic video on how to practice it, different practice techniques. He talks about going back and practicing it up a half step, down a half step, in all keys. It's incredible. Actually, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that. Practicing in all keys. So, that opening lick. What would that be in A flat? So how would you practice that? The exact same way. Again, the most important thing is pounding the valve down, going slow to fast. Whatever that is for you to build up speed, perfect repetitions are more important, but see? I also like to go slow enough at the beginning to be able to think through what I'm playing. Like, this is just a scale. Back down to the third, and then chromatic. No, what is it? So it's the scale, any major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. Then chromatic. If you have the first 5 notes of your scale, of a major scale, any major scale, and the chromatic scale down, you can do this. I gotta think what the... yeah. So that one I'd have to practice. That one, the fingering's a little bit trickier. That might take a little bit of work. So I'm tripping up over the C sharp to the D sharp. Hit it harder. And tell yourself, going from B to C sharp is pretty simple, really. Da 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 da. So there's no reason it has to be slow. It's just That's another tricky one. It has the third finger in there, and that tends to slow me up. Slow me up? Does it slow me up or does it slow me down? Comment in the comment box. Oh, garbage. When you're practicing these things, like taking an entire Clifford Brown solo in all keys, sounds kind of crazy insane. So what I would recommend is break it up into manageable chunks. I think you will do more good learning in all 12 keys than trying to play, oh gosh. Trying to play the whole thing down a half step, that is good to practice. That could be very beneficial. I think you'll be better off for now. Take small, manageable, sizable chunks and take it in all 12 keys. I think that's more beneficial if you struggle with that than trying to run the whole thing down in one other key. Small steps, small chunks. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I'm going to have PETA or somebody come after me now after a comment like that. No elephants were harmed in the making of this YouTube stream. Alright, for those of you who are still with me, and there's not very many of you, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, whatever it was. I hope you enjoyed what we, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I was about to sign out and then everybody started coming back. But it's like 9:30 and I gotta put my kids to bed. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. That's gonna be all for me for right now. I'll have to see you guys later. After I find out how to stop this thing. Well, let me see if I can play that real quick. See if my fingers are too worn out. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So again, after an hour and a half or more of playing, your hand should be tired. You know, the muscles should be tired and the performance level is going to slowly decrease, but that's okay. That's good. You want to go through the process, teach your fingers what they need to do, teach the muscle, slam your valves down, your finger, how do I want to say this? Slam your valves down, your fingers are going to get tired, that's good for your muscle memory, you're going to feel some soreness, your performance level is going to decrease. Decrease your tempo when it does that, give yourself a break, come back later to it, okay? Be realistic in your practice segments, take small manageable chunks, break your practice segment up into sections, what else do I want to say? That's it. If you just came in now, go back to the beginning, watch the whole thing. I'm just kidding. All right, thanks guys. I'm going to talk to you later.